flawlessly. I was just saying, you're a big technology guy, so we shouldn't have any problems at all.
Yeah, no problems. It's just getting done with my my workout. So sorry if I'm a little late.
Oh no, that's fine, because that's actually what I wanted to start talking to you about. Because because I do these 2 shows every week, somebody called me. I think he was referring to me. He called me the hardest working in Jeet Kune.
Awesome.
No, I beg to differ. I think you are.
I don't know.
Right?
That's very kind of you to say that.
No, I think you are, because every time that I see you, whether it's live or even if it's just a screenshot, there's this energy that you possess. So I wanted to start with that. Give me not the entire secret, give me a secret to your energy level.
Well, a big part of my focus, you know, I do a lot of Tai Chi and I do a lot of Qigong and Neigong and energy work. It's a big part of what I do. And, you know, there's 3 parts to that. There's 3 kinds of energy that we can develop, right? So we can develop our physical energy, which everybody kind of knows. They call that Jing, right? So that's the physical body being strong and powerful. Everybody kind of has that one down. And then there's the energy or the chi, the way it flows in the body. You know, there's a lot of people that may debate it or not believe it. Doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, it's what you believe and what works for you. And it's age-old technology that's been around for thousands of years. A lot of people don't know that, you know, I hurt my back really badly in 2001. I was in a horrible car accident. And the doctor said, I'm done. I have to get surgery. I can't ever do the things again. And that was at like 23, 24 years old. And now at 41, I just turned 41 last week, I can do things that I couldn't imagine doing when I was 20 years old, right? And so just clearing those blockages. But then the other part really is, Dwight, it's about the emotional content, the emotional perspective of who we are, of truly understanding that, right? Letting go of the past stories, the shame, the anger, the frustrations, all those things drain energy. Yeah. So when we can get rid of that, we have an abundant state of energy, you know. So,
but see, here's the thing that you just pointed out. A lot of times when people talk about energy, you'll hear them talk about physical energy, and they might even talk about mental. But you see what you just did there? You just said emotional energy, right? See, so that clues me into the fact, this is why I was excited to sit and dialogue with you, because it clues me into the fact that you're on a different level, that your approach to things is not at all what, even within the Jeet Kune clan, it's not, even Jeet Kune clan is not mainstream, but even within the mainstream Jeet Kune clan, your approach is a little bit different. I'm glad that you gave me a timeline for that horrific accident. When I read about that, I thought to myself, hold on a second. Didn't Bruce Lee have a huge accident with his back also? Right? Yeah. So then I thought, oh, so that's part of the reason why Singh has such an affinity for Jeet Kune and for Bruce Lee, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But here's another one. Your dad was a sprinter.
Yep.
Dan Inosanto was a sprinter.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? So I was reading that stuff, and I thought to myself, oh, I gotta ask him if he thinks there's even, my laptop just died, so I gotta bring it back up. Even if there's a mystical connection there between you and these 2 geniuses of Jeet Kune.
You know, I don't know if I could define that or not, but I definitely feel an affinity. You know, I think that there is energy is energy. So if you tap into the energy and the flow of it, the truth is universal. So the truth gets revealed, right, at some point or another. You know, do I have dreams? Sure, I do, and things like that. And I changed my life. You know, at one point I thought I was going to be an engineer and work in the Silicon Valley my whole life. I quit that 10 years ago because I had a belief that I had to find out how to honestly express myself, who I truly was. And that requires peeling away the layers, that requires taking risk, that requires abandoning the past stories of what you think you can and cannot do, and really discover the cause of your own ignorance and find out who you are. I think martial arts is really all about a journey of self-discovery to find out who you truly actually are. What are your unique gifts in life? And we all have them. So we all have them. Nobody's special. I don't believe any single person is more special than another person, but everybody has their own unique gifts. And the whole point is to, you know, learn, discover, and create that version of yourself that makes you happy.
Yeah. So I did some research. The name Harinder, right? So I'll read off some stuff here, and you can thumbs up or thumbs down it, right? So the name Harinder, you are a lover of nature and do not need others for your happiness.
Working on
thumbs up. Thumbs up. Huh?
We're definitely working on it, you know.
Okay. You are self-sufficient. You strive for material success and power and have business sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's accurate.
Okay. You possess strong organizational abilities, can be a good manager and executive by nature.
Yeah, I think so. I think that those.
Okay. You are capable of great achievement in business and finance. You are bold, independent, inquisitive, and interested in research.
Absolutely.
So I'm reading all of this and I'm thinking, he must have written this himself. Because even with the little that I know about you, I thought this was all spot on.
Yeah, it's fairly accurate, I would say. I don't know what gene you got that from, but
yeah, I mean, you can look it up. It's a thing called 7reflections.com.
Okay.
Right. There's more, but I won't bore you with it. I want to move on to something else. So give me the chronology. You were born in India.
Yep, I was born in.
You left there for Canada at what age?
I left India when I was about 3 years old, and I lived on a ship with my dad. He was a sea captain for about 4 years, and then we ended up, like, he was the sea captain of a merchant ship, and you know, one of those giant like as big as 10 football field kind of ships, and I was a grain tanker. And then we moved to Canada when I was about 6.5, almost 7 years old, and then I was there till I was 19. I studied karate while I was there, Okinawan, Shitoryu, and Washin-ryu karate over there. And I moved to the States when I was about 19 years old on a tennis scholarship, and I played at the University of California, Dave.
Oh yeah, hang on a second. I gotta pick a bone with you about that.
Yeah.
So, you played tennis, you played soccer, and you did swimming. Okay. Now, I grew up in Barbados, which is a former British colony, as was India. Why no cricket?
Well, I grew up in Toronto, so there wasn't much cricket. People have played baseball, right? So yeah, not too much cricket. When we'd visit India in the summers, you know, I remember as a child I played a little cricket here and there with the local boys, but no, that's something that didn't really catch on for me.
And I imagine that later on in life, the tennis training helped in the Kali.
Yeah, the footwork, you know, the coordination of the body, and really the mind, actually, because tennis is a solitary sport. You're actually fighting yourself in your own mind more than anything else, right? So that self-talk, the doubt, the fear, the stress, the anxiety, there's oftentimes like this other demon or enemy within your head that is always yapping away, and your ability to quiet that demon is just as big as a fight as the opponent on the other side of the net. And that's been my familiar battle, you know, and I crossed over into the martial arts because I think the thing was, in tennis, I wanted it so bad, right? I wanted to be a professional tennis player. Karate, I just did, right? I just did it. I didn't care about winning or losing or anything like that. So I was so successful in it. I would win every tournament as a kid because I didn't care about winning or losing. In tennis, I cared about it so much. I was like, one day I want to play Wimbledon, and I put so much pressure on myself that I would beat myself every single time, pretty much. That, especially when I was facing somebody a lot better than me. And
Yeah.
I really realized and learned that lesson and carried that over into the martial arts because, you know, the idea of victory or defeat, I mean, it doesn't even exist. It's a freaking illusion. It hasn't even happened yet. It's in the future. So if our mind goes into the future, we're worried about that. We're not right here, right now, in the present moment. Like you and I are connecting. We're worried about, oh, what should I say? The viewers are watching. I better be smart with my answers, all this kind of stuff. And that takes you completely out of it, you know?
Well, you know, I'll admit, I've been thinking about this for a couple of days, and I'm like, look, this guy has such a huge following. I don't want to dialogue with him and come off as a moron.
No way, man. Are you kidding me? You're one of my seniors, man. You've done such an amazing job. I think that this project of yours with I Love Jeet Kune and bringing on all different kinds of teachers and interviewing them and talking to them and uniting this community, I think is of paramount importance. I think that martial arts in general is a community that's divided. And even within arts, it's divided. There's constant bickering and, you know, this Facebook group and this forum and that forum, and everybody's always coming at things in such a negative way instead of actually seeing that we're so much more alike than anything else. I mean, we like to punch each other in the face. We like to train. We don't sit on the couch and eat potato chips and watch TV. We build lifelong friendships. We're trying to do something that's fun and we enjoy and express our bodies, and we're so much more alike than we are different. And I think it's kind of petty, and we got to move beyond it. You've done, I mean, I'm really proud of the work you've done, and I'm honored to be on here. And I think it's something that's so necessary. Well,
I appreciate that. I got to go back to our connection as former colonials. We seem to have this thing where parents try to steer us in the direction, career-wise, of doctor, lawyer, and then if you're not real smart, then a teacher, right, in academics. But in modern day era, is computer engineer now an accepted career path for young kids?
How do you mean? I mean, like, how do you mean with that question? So you were cutting out a little bit, right?
Okay. Yeah. No, I was asking you if, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. I was asking you if computer engineer has now made it onto that list of desirable careers.
Well, I think it was always there. I mean, doctor, lawyer, engineer. I mean, as if you come from like an Indian background or like an Asian background, it's like expected of you. Yeah. And if you don't do that, you're the black sheep of the family. You know what I mean? So it's something that's just like, it is what it is. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't even come into play. It's like, discover myself what I like to do. They're like, what kind of stupid question is that? That's kind of like I think the general consensus, right? I'm sure you back me up on that one. But yeah, I mean, because why? I mean, you know, oftentimes they want security for you, right? So your parents are coming from a loving place. They want you to have security. They want you to have a good job. They want you to have a good career, so you don't have to struggle the way they struggled. So it really comes from a place of love. But I think that, you know, if they've sacrificed to get us here, then we have a unique opportunity to go, what's the next level after survival is thrival, right? It's like, we want to thrive, and to thrive, you find what you're good at, what you can do, and make a living out of it. And if you can do that, that's the ultimate, right? Because it's no longer a job. This is not a job for me. Yes, I have to run a business. That's a job, but this is not a job for me. Right. I don't like sit there and be like, oh, I have to train. I love to train. I love to be by myself. I love to, you know, explore and discover. And I love to teach. I love it more than anything on earth. It makes me happier than anything. Like, I'm never going to retire. Like, look at Guru Dan and Asano. I mean, man, you know, he's in his 80s. He's going strong. There's no retiring. He's loving what he's doing every moment of it. And so do I. And so I think that's the ultimate.
In that name profile, what you just said reminded me, it says you're seeking freedom and opportunities to enjoy life, to go places and to do things. You are very adventurous and willing to take risks to achieve your objective. new
Yep.
ways and new experiences. Okay, comment on this one for me. New ways and new experiences cannot satisfy your restless nature.
I think that so there's like, you know, there's that age old question. It goes knowledge and wisdom, right? So knowledge, you could do all the studying, the training, the practice of the techniques, the tactics, the strategies, and wisdom is the
Yeah.
experience of the usage of that knowledge in a context, in an application. So you got to seek the experience, right? And so I think that's the most important thing. Life is an experience, and we're here for such a limited
Mm-hmm.
time. And I mean, you know, for me, when I was in the Silicon Valley world, cubicle, right? And they said that a Silicon Valley engineer spends more time in a confined space than the average prisoner does, and they don't even have their own toilet, right? So it's like, it was such a crazy day. I was like, I gotta get out of here. If I had hair, I would have pulled it all out by now.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
Is there anything about that? Is there anything about the Silicon Valley life that you miss?
No, not at all. Not at all. But I learned a lot. You know, I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about organizations. I learned a lot about the way the world works, right? The way corporate America works. I was very successful. I was an advanced applications engineer, and then I went into business intelligence and strategic marketing. So I learned a lot over there, and it's helped me quite a lot in my career. You know, along with being a martial artist, I'm also a speaker and a coach and a high performance coach. And I work with executives and companies and corporations all across the world, bringing them the mindset and the positive sides of the martial arts, especially self-discovery, dealing with tension and pressure, adaptability. How do we raise our performance levels in highly tense, riskful, and uncertain environments? How do we turn that chitter chatter of the mind off? How do we not take the stress home? How do we focus when everything seems like it's kind of going nuts around us? And to understand that world and the martial art world and the teachings from there, it creates a great bridge, and it's been quite successful for me so far.
Yeah, the speaking gig that I saw a picture of you with Jack Canfield of Chicken Soup fame. Is that where you got started with that? Okay, and then you mentioned high performance. Is that go anywhere? Okay,
there we go.
All right, I was just getting ready to go to Plan B.
Well, I moved, you moved, we made it happen. Sorry for everybody watching. I'm not sure what was going on.
No, it's all right. I'll clean it up post in what do they call it? Post production.
Sounds good.
All right. So now I'm off track. So let me ask you this: how many books in your personal collection?
Oh man, I must have a few thousand.
Yeah. And do all Indian people have to have a favorite Bollywood movie?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know. There definitely are some good movies, that's for sure, right? I would be lying if I didn't say I enjoyed those every now and then. But I do, you know, and they're fun to watch, you know. So they're just, a Bollywood movie is like action, drama, comedy, sadness, musical, everything like rolled into one. Unbelievable things that don't really happen and stuff like that. But it's good, fun, entertaining stuff. They kind of put everything into one show for you. So.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to ask you a chronologically based question. Sarita Chowdhury or Priyanka Chopra?
Oh man, I think Priyanka Chopra is probably a better actress. She crossed over to, it's definitely shown that she's done well. But yeah, probably she's probably more successful.
Yeah. Do you don't have kids of your own, right?
I do. I have a son. He's 3 years old. His name's Shogun Singh, and he's the light of my life.
Okay. All right. So now, what's a best piece of advice you would give to a 7-year-old kid?
Man, I think that you got to find what you like to do and do that. I think that's the most important thing. Find out what it is you enjoy, what is it that you love doing, and then the earlier age you could find that out, the more time you can put in making it better and enjoy yourself doing it, and don't take yourself too seriously, but at the same time don't slack off. So find what it is you love to do and go after that. I think that's really important, and give it your best. And don't worry about failure, because failure is a step to success. And invest in loss. I think that's something very important. Oftentimes young kids, they quit once they fail. And the lesson really is to invest in loss, because only through losing do you gain the wisdom of the experience and then get better. So as Rocky Balboa says, get knocked down 7 times, get up 8, right?
Yeah, that'd be pretty heavy for a 7-year-old. What would you say to a 14-year-old?
Well, I think I'd say the same thing. I'd say the same thing to a 14-year-old. I think that really it really comes, I think it really comes down to not caring about what other people think, especially when you become 14 years old. You start to worry about the cultural trends, social things and stuff like that, and you want to try to fit in, which is important, of course. But I think that getting caught up in what everybody else thinks at that early an age will impact you the rest of your life. So find out, who you are and learn to honestly express yourself. That's a lot harder to do, but there are some kids that can do that right away. They become much more successful when they're older on. But oftentimes what happens to a lot of kids is they worry about what everybody else is going to say, what everybody else is going to think. And then that really hinders them. I mean, I lost my hair to alopecia when I was around 13 years old, and I was in school. And I was always worried about what everybody else would think about me. And then that goes back to that emotional energy drain, right? So that energy is going off into worrying about what other people think, instead of being put into what I like to do, enjoy doing, or into life, right? So, and you can't get that back, but it also teaches you lessons. It teaches you wonderful lessons. And I think that that's the main thing, is that what is the lesson you can gain from the experience? If you can get that out of it, you can let an experience go and grow from it. If you don't, you'll be haunted by it for the rest of your life.
Right. What advice would you give to a 42-year-old?
40 is the new 20, man. Age is just a number, okay? Age is just a number. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype, man. That's the thing I would tell you. So.
Yeah. I deliberately wanted to spend the first half of this dialogue with you and be conspicuous and stay away from martial art, because
I could see that.
I wanted people to, right? I wanted people to appreciate the level of intellect that we have amongst the Jeet Kune members. So instead of going straight to technical questions and, what's your favorite technique and just bogus stuff like that, right? I thought that you'd be a perfect guinea pig for that experiment, if you don't mind the expression. All right. Okay. So I got to ask you about the name Singh. Its relation to the Sikh. Would Sikh be considered a clan, a religion? What would Sikh be considered?
Sikhism is a religion. From India. It's the 5th largest religion in the world at the moment, and it was born out of Hinduism. And we are, you could say, the warrior the warrior class of India, especially around the time of the Mughal invaders and stuff like that. It came about in those times, and when the people were being oppressed. And the idea was that, hey, you know, you would be saint soldiers, lift the sword up and protect those that were weak and fight for righteousness. And at the same time, develop a higher consciousness and dedicate your life to service. So it kind of came that way. There are 10 gurus that came along, and the idea was to manifest the guru within. And big idea that was kind of passed forward. And then Sikhs, you know them in the world today, they wear turbans. They grow their hair long. I don't have any hair, as you can see, but yeah, Singh comes from that, and it means lion, right? So the lion-hearted people. So that's kind of like what that means. There was also a class system in India. So your last name, everybody was divided by class. And being a Singh meant that you were equal to everybody else, that you didn't, based on your last name, have a higher lot in life or a lower lot in life. So they wanted to have an equality across all people.
Okay. So I was born in an Indian village in Trinidad. My mom grew up in an Indian village in Trinidad. And so Indian food has always been a staple in our diet. So a few years ago here in Miami, we were weekly regulars at an Indian restaurant. And the owner, last name was Singh. But that's where I heard the story that there's a flexible sword that the Sikhs wear. Is that true?
Yes. Yes, there's a flexible sword that it's kind of like a whip, a magic of it, and use. The Sikhs have a martial art. It's called Shastra Vidya, which was the predecessor to Gatka, which is kind of more popular now, especially after the British came and banned those activities in India. But Shastra Vidya goes back thousands of years, and it was a weapon-based system. And it's Shastra Vidya means the ancient science of weaponry. So there's many different swords, the talwar, straight swords. They have the movements are very similar to the Filipino martial arts. A lot of it is a big crossover to a lot of things that you see there with the footwork and the movement. So there's a great kind of cross that way. And I have one of the things I did do whenever I visit India, I have a Shastra Vidya teacher I would go to and train with to learn sword and some of the more meditative aspects of it to have a little bit more connection with my culture. And you want to know the funny thing is, it was Guru Dan who told me more about it at the Kali Academy. Maybe it was 2006 or 2007. He went to the back, and because Singh saw my name, he's like, oh yeah, you know, Bruce Lee loved that. And he's like, I grew up in Stockton, a lot of things, and there was the temple, and so we used to work in the fields. It was the Filipinos and the Indian Punjabi people. And he went to the back and brought this big giant poster out, and there was the first thing on it was these clippings that Bruce Lee had of the Indian wrestlers. And Dwight, it was insane. It was like muscle dysmorphia. Like I had never seen anything like that before. It was so big, it was larger than the guy's head. Like it looked like Popeye. I had never seen anything like that before. And then he told me about the Gamma Pelvan and how he was one of Bruce Lee's idols. And I was like, what? And then I went and I researched it. And the great Gamma was from Amritsar, which was only like 40 minutes away from where my grandparents live. And so then I got obsessed with that and Indian wrestling. And I'd go to India. I'd go find exercises like the mace swinging, and then the Hindu push-up and the squat exercises and stuff like that. And then the weaponry from the Sikh martial arts. And so it was really kind of cool. He pointed me in that direction. And, you know, one of the coolest things about him is such a cultural icon in the sense that through martial arts, you could learn so much more about your own history, the history of other cultures, and appreciate the wonderfulness that's there.
Yeah, I came across the Hindu push-up and the Hindu squat doing a program called Combat Conditioning with a guy named Matt Fury. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I have heard of him. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then I'm old
Yeah.
enough to
The squat and
remember
push-up are
when in
staple.
certain magazines. Say that again?
Sorry, I got cut off there, but I was saying that the squat and push-up, I mean, they're also in the Tao of Jeet Kune. Bruce Lee has them drawn right in the beginning in the qualities area.
Yep.
The Great Gamma had a challenge. He said before he trained you, you had to be rid of the push-ups and 1,000 of the squats, and we absorbed that into our training as well. And it's quite phenomenal, the meditative and the movement and muscular training that provides to do those kinds of numbers, how strong and powerful you feel.
Right. Yeah, my record for my personal record for the Hindu squat is only 350.
But you're young and powerful, man. You if you put more effort into it, I'm sure you'll get the 1,000 like that.
On terms of culture, did you ever make anything of the name Kali in India as opposed to the name Kali in the Philippines? Is there anything to that?
So the Kali is the goddess of destruction in India. So there a lot of warriors would pray to the goddess Kali for protection. They went to battle. So that is kind of what I know about it from the Indian culture. So, you know, I think that there must be some influence because that whole trade route between India all the way to the Philippines is there for such a long time. Must have influenced it at some point.
So okay, so now let's talk Jeet Kune. Is there a Jeet Kune misconception that still exists that annoys you?
Yeah, it's that only Bruce Lee could intercept people, and that he had these phenomenal skills, which he did. But you know, so Bruce Lee is like is the god of martial arts, right? Everybody looks at him and looks to be like him, like I did. I was like, oh, I want to be like Bruce Lee. I'm inspired to every my life is inspired by him. But then finally one day I realized, I said, man, you know, if only Bruce Lee could do certain things, and yes, we have to each find what we're good at, the interception part really kind of got left to the side, where it was like, oh, maybe he had the speed to do it. He had the timing to do it. He had the perception to do it. And I think that one of the key things, interception is perception, and to perception is your attention and awareness and the stillness that you can cultivate to do those things, you know. And I think that's a big part of it, where you have to discover the process for yourself and find what works for you. And that interception is not really just based in speed and just based in mechanics. Those are important, but it has a big part of it has to do with your mind, and it has to do with your ability to perceive the information, the ability to stay still in the chaos, the ability to feel what your opponent is going to do, and how can you build it and develop it and train it. Some people have it naturally, of course, that's there, but how can one figure that out for themselves? And there's a process to that, I think, and I think that's a big part that maybe more people can spend a little bit of time on, and to understand it, because it's a way of peeling away their own layers and their own limitations so that they could do greater things. Because Bruce Lee was the pointer to the way, not the way itself. So he's the pointer to the way. Follow that process and find out the greatness or the Bruce Lee who you are. You know, I think that's the key thing. For years, Dwight, I wanted to be like Bruce Lee, try to emulate him, do everything, and more train as hard and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, after many years, I realized, I was like, you know what? He's inspired me, but I don't want to be Bruce Lee anymore. I want to find out who Harinder Singh is. Whose it is this? My life to live. And that's what he really was pointing to anyways. Honestly express yourself, not honestly express me, right? And so I think that's a big freedom that I gained from that.
Yeah. I was talking about on yesterday's no, on Wednesday's program in the broadcast. I was talking about that same idea. What about how should I put this? A unique thought, right? And when I say unique, I mean something that you thought about that you had not heard anyone else, either senior or junior, in JKD express.
I think it revolves around the mindset.
It's not a well-worded question.
No, I understand. I think that, so if you look at the 26 elements of Junfan Gung Fu, right? The arts that were listed that he kind of, that Guru Dan put out years ago that he listed, in there, there's Xingyi, Bagua, and Tai Chi. And all of those arts, they share an internal methodology to them. And they all have a common root to that. And one is rooting, and one is the mind, rooting the mind, building the energy. They have something called Neigong. So there's Qigong, Neigong, and Shengong. So Qigong is for health, energy, all that kind of stuff. Neigong is the mind, the emotions, the martial applications. And then Shengong is the development of the spirit. And those arts share that. And if you look at the symbol of Jeet itself, it is Tai Chi. It's not a Jeet Kune symbol. The yin yang is taken from Tai Chi. So Bruce Lee said it's a pointer to the way. So don't focus on the finger or the moon. You lose all the heavenly glory. Why did he pick Tai Chi logo as the logo for his art? Having no way is way, having no limit is limit is Taoist philosophy. Be like water, my friend, is Taoist philosophy. When you open the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, there's the drawing of the Taoist priest, and then the Taoist poem over there about looking into yourself and reflecting upon it and finding that out. So I was always intrigued by that. I'm very close with his sister also, Phoebe Lee, and I would ask her questions about that, and she said that, you know, she believes that as he got older, he would have gone towards the Tai Chi, towards the internal arts. And Tai Chi is really misunderstood, I think. And one of the things that that's misunderstood about it is that it's a development system for yourself on all levels. Let's put the fighting out of, take that out of it for a second. You know, there could be many, not, that's not even the point. The point is the self-discovery process. The training that I've been through in my lineage, and I continue to go through, is about really discovering who you are. And there's a method that they've laid out to it, that there's meditations and methods for truly are to let go of the past. Because for me, in a fight, my emotional constructs, the stories that I've told myself, are blocks in that fight. Let's say if we take a fight, for example, life is a fight too. And for me to be truly open to the experience, to surrender, because in a fight, you've got to surrender to the fight. You have to surrender to the experience. You have to train when you train, obviously, but in a fight, you've got to surrender to the experience. I can't be worried about victory or defeat. I can't be worried about my opponent. The opponent doesn't exist. Really, if I can get to that state, and how do I get to that state? How do I train myself to get to that state? I think is a big thing, and it's in the symbol. There's the symbol. So if you look at the symbol and study the symbol, you could really find out a lot about yourself. You could find out a lot about what he was thinking about, what was maybe driving him in the process, and he developed himself into who he was supposed to be, but the process you use to develop yourself into who you're supposed to be. And the martial arts is the vehicle, because in a fight there is no hiding, there's no phone a friend, there's no falseness. You can't lie to yourself. You have to accept yourself wholly and totally. You have to have structure, but then you have to be you have to be unconditional yielding with structure. You have to surrender the experience and be right there. You have to connect to your opponent. You know, there was the stories that Guru Dan would tell about, it was like Bruce Lee would have these experiences that he would go outside of his body and see what's to react to it. That he would freeze the opponent. How did he do that? Is my question, right? How did he develop that? Is my question. And if you look at it, Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Laird Hamilton, anybody that's really great at what they do, they go beyond the physical. They're always beyond the physical. That's the difference. Michael Jordan's a great athlete, but everybody in the NBA is a great athlete. Everybody's a great athlete, but it's his was his perception of time. Laird Hamilton rides 100-foot wave, man. He's riding 100-foot wave. That is insane, right? How? It's just can't be just physical, right? So there's that idea of it, you know, and the definition of the spirit is, according to the Chinese Taoist Kung Fu philosophy, it is the thoughts of the mind and the feelings of the heart. So what are the thoughts in your mind? And the thoughts of the mind impact the feelings of the heart, and the feelings of the heart impact the thoughts of the mind. So if we are, let's say, again, in a fight experience, if I'm thinking of what to do, if I'm worried about what my opponent's going to do, I go into the past, because as soon as I think I'm in the past, and I become reactionary. If my fear comes up or my anger comes up, it blinds me and takes me out of the moment and control. So how can I quiet the thoughts, balance the emotions, come into the now, and be connected to my opponent, and come from that, and in that connection, in that moment, there is no victory or defeat, and I'm open to the experience. Because if I lose, I will gain wisdom from the experience. If I win, you win. So really, you win in both ways. So I think that's something that's really important to discover.
Is there an Indian equivalent of Taoist philosophy, would you say?
Sorry, Dwight, could you repeat that question again? You cut out a little bit.
Is there an Indian equivalent of the Taoist philosophy?
I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you. I've really studied more the Taoist arts, so I could kind of talk about that, but there may be. There may not be, but I can't really speak on that because I haven't experienced it from there. So I think that everybody, when they're in tune with nature, because all Taoism really is the Taoist philosophy is in accordance with the rules of nature. So it's not religious based. It's not secular. It's about the rules of nature. So if you look at it, the Tao of Jeet Kune, right? If you think about it, it really says Jeet Kune, the way of the intercepting fist, but it says the Tao. So it's saying the way in accordance with the nature. So it's saying the Tao of Jeet Kune. So it's right there, the Tao of Jeet Kune. What is the Tao? Right? How do we fit into that? And it's in the symbol. So it's kind of intrigued me a lot. It's taken me all over. I go to China to learn with my teachers over there, to Longshan, which is Dragon Tiger Mountain. I go there, and I train with some of the Taoist priests over there, and I train with Kung Fu masters over there, and it's a great experience, right? But at the same time, I box and I wrestle and I do jiu-jitsu and I do Kali. So it's not like, one without the other. It's both. Right. We live in such a unique time right now that I think martial arts now are divided into 3 factions. There's reality-based self-defense systems, right? There is sport combat, and then there is traditional martial arts. So guess what? The question shouldn't be which one is better. The question should be, how do I absorb them all and find the best thing for myself? Because we've got to have the reality-based techniques that will work in a street fight. We need to know what is it that's going to work in a street fight. What are our tactics, strategies? What are we going to do that are efficient and that'll work in those situations and scenarios. How can we go through the 5 ranges of combat, deal with different weapons fights, mass attacks, fight people larger than us, terminate the threat quickly? Then you have sport combat. If you don't have sport combat in your training, the boxing, the kickboxing, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, that gives you a mold to practice timing, angle, and distance, to take punches, to get choked out, to actually experiment. And then the traditional arts have things like philosophy and movement and forms and the art part. So pick from all of them and make your own thing. And I think that you'll be so much more balanced than fighting and arguing all the time as to which one is better, because that's all I seem to see on the internet, is one side always putting down another side. And it's a waste of time, I think.
And you had to make use of all 3 aspects, because you used the traditional art as recuperation after the back accident. You had that terrible street fight around graduation time from UC Davis. So you had to you had the insight into the reality training. And then even before your days in Jeet Kune, you were winning competitions in martial art. So you've got the sport combat aspect down also.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, I was doing karate tournaments growing up as a kid. And now I box. You know, I mean, I may not compete, but I spar. So I box a lot with pro boxers. I wrestle with some of the best in the world. I do jiu-jitsu with some of the best in the world, and I just get smashed. I get my ass kicked. I invest in just getting beat up by people better than me. That's the experience. It's about survival. Coach Derek Sierra is a professional boxer. He's like 220 pounds, moves like smooth like Ali, and he's strong as hell, and he's a great grappler on top of it. And he just, we spar, and he pushes me to another level. I've got another wrestling coach, John Clark, who's a strike force fighter. Marcel Luzado is a 6-time world Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion. I go to Darren Tabone for my colleague. He's an Angel's disciple. And I just go to these guys and I get beat up. And I spend the time and the exposure to lose. And that you learn so much from that. So when you can use that environment of training to get better, and there's always 3 aspects, I think, to it. Train with somebody much better than you, so that they can push you to get better and put you in extremely uncomfortable situations. So you learn to make yourself comfortable. Train with people who are at the same level as you, have training partners, so that you can learn to compete. And then train with your students, because they're the greatest resource you have, because they're your place for experimentation. And so I think that that's really important in the development. That's the experience, right? So we don't all have to go out and get in street fights. That when I got jumped in that street fight, I didn't know what to do. I got my ass kicked. I was no hero. God saved me. But that led me to try to discover truth. It was like, okay, I've been doing this karate for a long time. I've been in a few street fights here and there, but I just got jumped by a gang and I had no idea what to do. I need to find a solution. I need to look for an answer. And so and now I'm here.
Right. Yeah. And now that you're here, give me an idea of the approach that you use to structure curriculum for all the people that you train and teach. What goes into phase 1? What goes into intermediate? What goes into advanced? Not the details, but the structure behind it.
So I think that there's an overall like a Sifu that I follow. But number 1 is that you've got to be a good teacher. So they've got to learn how to teach. Then you got to be a good technician. So that means that you got to look good when you do the move. It's got to be technically sound. You got to have a fighter. It means you have to be able to apply that in functional application. And then there's the X factor. You got to discover your own uniqueness, you know, what you bring to the experience. And that's kind of the overlying foundation of development. But in the beginning, it's very important that you have exposure to all, you know, normally we would say in Jeet Kune there's 4, but I think now we can really divide it into 5. There's the punching, there's trapping, there's stand-up grappling, clinch and wrestle, and then there's the ground. So there has to be an exposure to those elements. Then there has to be an exposure to the weapons, you know, at least the 7 configurations of like single knife, double knife, single stick, double stick, baseball bat, staff, espadi daga, and dos manos, things like that.
Yeah.
And then you have to have
Yeah.
you have to have drilling. And there's 3 different kinds of training that you got to do. Number 1, there's the numerata type training where one side is feeding. You buy the numbers, so you get used to the angles and movement. Then you've got to have counter for counter, where you're developing reflexes. Then you have to have sensitivity drills, where you're developing sense and touch with knife, with like things like chisao, with things like wrestling and things like jiu-jitsu. And then you have to have sparring, you know, in a safe manner. And then you have to have and then you have to do all that with multiple opponents. And then most importantly, the nucleus of the training has to be in the mindset, is achievement of stillness. There's 3, which is, okay, I'm sitting and I'm focusing on my breath, or I'm laying down, or I'm standing. Then there's stillness and movement. So either you're doing a form, you're shadow boxing, or you're doing some carenza. So now you're developing the stillness and awareness in that. And then there's stillness and movement under chaos. So can you keep that stillness while you're doing the numerata drill, while you're doing the sombrata drill, while you're sparring, while you're changing different ranges, while you're drilling, and keep that at the nucleus, because the present moment and the ability to be in the now is of utmost importance in the fight, because mind will come in and take you out of the fight. It'll take you into the future, where you're worried about what's going to happen, or it'll take you to the past, and that creates obsessive thinking. Conservation of energy, the focus of your breath. If you're not aware of your breathing, and that's not a central part of your training, the nucleus of it, then when you get in a fight, the tension is going to cause you to hold your breath, and when you hold your breath, you get tired. And that's the worst thing that can happen in a fight, is to get tired and panic. And so I think that the training has to be an internal perspective with your breathing and the mindset of being stillness, along with the movement that goes in the ranges of combat, the various drills, and the sparring, the numerata, the counter for counter, and the ability to seamlessly flow from, and not kind of like have, okay, we're just going to kickbox from 5 to 6, from 6 to 7 we're going to do jiu-jitsu, from 8 to 9 we're going to do kali. But how is it that we could go from the stick, go to the knife, go to the trapping, go to the kickboxing, hit the ground, get back up, and flow and put it together in a seamless fashion? I think that's important. I hope that answers your question.
Now, I'm old, and I'm old. I've been around for a while, so I understand most of what you're saying. But in doing my research for you, I came across, it's a grant program that your organization has for kids in martial art? Okay. And you can find it at jkdkids.com, correct?
Actually, you can find it at budobrothers.com. Okay. JKD Kids is pushing it. So I partnered with the Budo Brothers, and we did a video series, and we did a speech, a charity speech, so that they could get a grant. And basically, the idea behind it is that they now have a government grant, and it's a full-on charity in which they look for children who are worthy children that would like to get a scholarship to get martial arts training where they wouldn't be able to afford it. And the way that works is that the children are interviewed, and the grant that's done by the Budo Brothers, what ends up happening is that once they find a suitable candidate, they then pay the instructor where they would go learn the lessons and then there's like a report every year. How are they doing? How are they progressing? So it's for underprivileged children to get an opportunity to get into the martial arts. I mean, everything I am is because it's courage, confidence, clarity, success in life, being a better human, being a better person, finding out who you are. It's priceless experience, especially for those children who can't afford it. Less than favorable conditions can have an opportunity to change their lives through martial arts.
So that's what I wanted. By the way, it's an excellent. I think it's like maybe a 2-minute video, right? It's a great video. Don't tell anybody that I took a look at it and I've stolen the drills that I saw those guys doing with the kids. Right? But what I wanted to ask you, because I'm getting ready to close this up with you. Everything that you talked about, the structure behind everything that you just talked about, give me an idea of what you do to have that conform to what kids can understand.
So for children, they're a sponge, right? So train adults with, you train children with, you can take out some of the extreme violence things, like the quick kills, and the edge weapon now becomes a little stick, right? You can still develop the same attributes. You do knife sparring, you give them a little padded stick or a padded long, you just call the knife a little stick. You're still developing attributes. You make them go through the different ranges. You're still developing attributes. Maybe things like, chi sao and stuff like that. You teach them when they're a little bit older, but at that age, they can learn things like pummeling and jujitsu and kickboxing, and so they can learn to fundamentally move like that. They can learn things like sumbrata and numerata and knife sparring, so they can learn things like that, and they learn to flow at an early age, and that's so much fun for them to do. So I think that it's really just making it a little safer and a little dialed down in the level of violence and how that violence is communicated to the children. But at the same time, you want to empower them with tools that will help them. Because the goal with children is you're trying to empower them to develop their discipline, to develop their courage, their confidence. And that's really the goal. An 8-year-old child, let's be dead honest, no matter how much they know, a grown man is going to still scoop them up off the street. I mean, they're not going to be able to really fend it off. That's the honest truth. But they can have an attention, they can have an awareness could keep them aware of people, not talk to other people. They could deal with adults that they don't know, be aware of what's going on the street to avoid things like that. And the biggest epidemic that they have to deal with now is bullying in the schoolyard. And how do they stand up to bullies, and how do they deal with that? And so really we're giving them those things like discipline, courage, confidence, and clarity. That's really the business of martial arts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a hint that we should start wrapping this up. So I'm gonna be a little bit unfair to you right now and conduct another experiment. So
sure,
I want you to take a few seconds. Okay. I want you to take a few seconds and then give me 1 or 2 or 3 adjectives that you would use to describe your social self. How and what you are in relation to others.
Fun, loving, kindness, aggressive, and straightforward.
Okay. Now, this one's more difficult because now you have to take that and internalize it. So 1 or 2 or 3 adjectives for your personal self. You, as you relate privately to yourself, your internal self-description. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Reflective, constantly searching, at times restless, looking for the way.
Okay. All right. One more. And then we're done. So you get to come back to this earthly plane, and you can use what you've learned in your 40-something years to come back with one skill and one personality trait. One skill, one personality trait. Take a few seconds and tell me what you come back with.
Stillness and compassion. So skill would be to be still, be in the moment, be there to receive, to listen, to adapt, and the compassion, to have compassion and kindness for myself and for anybody and everybody that I come in contact with.
All right. Okay, listen, I hear the voice of your little one in the background, so I know that's a sign.
No, it's all good. He just got home. He's good.
Yeah, no, no. But no, I don't want to take up any more of your time. So listen, this has been an immense pleasure. I'm really glad that we got to do this, and I got to spend some time with you.
Me too, man. It's a great honor. Thank you very much for having me on there. Thank you to everybody for listening and commenting. And I think that you're doing a wonderful service here and bringing the communities together and all branches of the same tree. We're all one large family, and we have so much to learn from each other. And constantly being in the state of being a student, we can absorb what's useful from everyone. And I think that we represent a legacy that's a new one, right? It's a new legacy in perspective of the timeline of martial arts. Jeet Kune's only been around for a few years, and what we do going forward is going to determine whether people are still talking about this art 1,000 years from now. And I think that things like this are great for people to come together and bring us together into one unit so that we can survive the test of time.
All right, listen, man. Thanks again. We'll do a
Thank you, brother.
2 for sure.
I love it. You tell me when. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay. That's it, everybody. Thanks to Harinder Singh. And next Friday, I think I'm on with Guy Chase. So everybody tune in.